you've shot for many publications too, and you also did radio and you announced a bunch.
I was working for 30 years, 6 days a week.
And when did you start, shooting for magazines? And
At 14.
At 14, okay.
My dad had a saying, and this is really what I live by. When you're green, you grow. When you get ripe, you rot. I always want to continue to grow.
Mr. Ed Justice Jr., welcome to the show. Creative Drive, Racer's new podcast. Welcome. So, what's going on these days? What's up with you right now? What's going on in your world?
Well, gosh, I jokingly say I'm a guy that just can't say no. I think Marilyn Monroe was the lady that said I'm a girl that can't say no. What's in my life? Always in my life has been being part of the Justice family, being the son of one of the three brothers, and obviously Justice Brothers Incorporated. We manufacture additives, lubricants, and cleaners. That's what I spend every day doing, and I continue to do, and I enjoy it very much, and I've been blessed really with that. But there's these other stories that parallel. And this is where sometimes it gets hard for some people to understand, well, how can you do this and you can do that? And I don't know, I guess I'm a workaholic, but I don't see it that way. I like to stay busy. I have attention on a lot of things. And I was raised by a dad who always told me to go for it. And so if I see something, I've been gifted with extreme passion when I get on something. And, I consider that most people are like this. I guess maybe not. I don't know. We only have ourselves to reference, and what we see outside, who knows? So I've been a photographer ever since I was 12 years old when I got my first camera. By 14, I was freelancing for the magazines. Now, I know that that's hard for some people to believe, but understand this is over 50 years ago, and things were a lot different back then. We didn't have as many attorneys, and I have some great friends who are attorneys, okay? But we didn't have as many. If I showed up at a race, there weren't as many motorsports photographers. I mean, now you get a crowd. I mean, it's. I could show you pictures from then and pictures from now. Also, with new cameras, it's lowered the bar for the talent to become a motorsports photographer. And I'm not knocking the guys that shoot today, okay? Because I use the latest gear too, okay? But it was tougher back then. It's a lot tougher to drive a race car with a manual transmission than it is with a paddle shifter, okay? And that's really what I'm talking about here, okay? Yep. New cameras are like paddle shifters. Old cameras are like driving a manual. And so I started in that era of manual focus, manual exposure, what you would call the fundamentals of photography. And I didn't have a driver's license, so I relied on my dad or one of my uncles to take me to a race, and having two uncles helped. And again, I got access, and I was shooting pictures, and I'd print them. I had a dark room that we built at the house, and started printing pictures, and I'd go into the pits and I'd sell them for $1.50 a print to the racers. And a lot of people now have collected these prints because they've got my stamp on the back with a car that's losing its transmission, a little cartoon. And so that's sort of how it all started. But along the way, besides covering motorsports, I've always been interested and had a desire for fine art photography. The more surrealistic, abstract, pop art related looks. And I know all three of those are different because, I graphic design background, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be a sign painter at one time. I apprenticed at a sign shop. I mean, I've had a huge graphic arts background, but it always appealed to me, this fine art photography, because it's a completely different thing than the motorsports photography. The approach is different. The eye is different. And so that led to recently an exhibition at the Leica Gallery in Los Angeles, which is their premier gallery in the world, actually. And there were about 30 of my works that were on display with a nice big opening, well attended, and they were on display for about 2 months in conjunction with a fellow photographer by the name of Edward Keating, who was a Pulitzer Prize photographer. Unfortunately, he passed away from cancer, pretty much probably because of the exposure from things when he was shooting pictures at Ground Zero during 9/11. And so that was an honor in itself, is to be paired with Edward Keating, a Pulitzer Prize winning photographer.
Hey, do you really think that cafe Wi-Fi is safe? Well, think again. Public Wi-Fi can be a hacker's playground. With the man-in-the-middle attack, cyber criminals set up fake networks like cafe-free Wi-Fi, intercept everything you do online. They can do that. They can steal passwords, spy on your emails, and intercept the data you send and receive. The fix is something like NordVPN. Encrypt your internet traffic so hackers get nothing. Not your logins, not your banking info. Your emails are safe, and not even those Fast and the Furious memes. So right now you can grab an exclusive NordVPN deal plus 4 extra months for free. Just head to nordvpn.com/racer and stay protected. It's risk-free and you get a 30-day money-back guarantee. So stay safe, keep those hackers away, and sign up now. Back to the show. Was it photography first or automotive first for your interest?
It was. Look, I had no choice about growing up in the automotive world. Okay, I mean, my dad was the type of guy that if he said to me, "Ed, what are you doing this weekend?" And I said, "Well, Dad, I'm gonna go down the street and play with Billy and George or whoever." He'd say, "Nah, I don't think so." He said, "You do that, you're going to end up in trouble. You're coming with me." Now, maybe that wasn't the most popular thing all the time, but it really was the right thing. And so consequently, when my dad would go to races, I would go along. And I loved racing. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think I was like a lot of young boys and girls too, obviously, particularly in today's world, that it sort of captured my interest. So my dad was a photo nut.
Okay.
So he shot pictures. Okay. Mm-hmm. And he was a good photographer. I mean, he wouldn't do any of this type of stuff. Mm-hmm. But all during World War II, he shot pictures in the Air Force. Mm-hmm. And I've got huge amount of negatives and prints and all over Europe. Bombed out cities, airplanes. He started as a young boy because his dad was a auctioneer. So his dad had a reason to own a camera when nobody else owned a camera. Mm-hmm. And his dad would let him use that camera if he bought the film. And so my dad shot pictures as a young man. Okay. So I had that. My dad wanted to keep me out of trouble, so he sort of pushed me towards photography. And between that and me seeing images in the magazines and just loving the action and again, realizing that a photographer gets to go out versus an artist stays behind a board in a room, that really appealed to me. So it was sort of like a perfect storm.
Yeah. And your family's been involved in motorsports for a very long time. Can you explain a little bit about that?
So my dad, as young boys, they grew up south of Kansas City, and they were living the California dream through magazines vicariously. And they were living the racing dream through magazines vicariously. I have a picture of their bedroom wall. It's got pictures hanging all over it. I mean, pretty amazing to have that photo, number one. Yeah. But again, my dad being a photographer. So So when my dad got the chance to, when he got old enough, he went to aircraft mechanic school, and he got the chance to come to California. He was bound and determined to go to California. He was leaving the family. He had 2 brothers and 3 sisters. And he came to California out Route 66, got a job at Douglas Aircraft, and then went to work on moving the family out here. Well, the first one to come of the family was my uncle Zeke, whose given name is Lawrence. Mm-hmm. And that was because my dad got him a job in what was one of the premier race shops in Southern California at that time. And that was sort of then how it worked in. After the war, my uncle became the first employee for a guy by the name of Frank Curtis with the Curtis Craft Roadsters, which were the #1 Indy car at that era. They made midgets too, which ruled the dirt tracks of America. And then my dad went to work for Curtis Craft building race cars. And so that's how, I mean, as way before I was ever born, we were in that game. Right. And then they transitioned into the oil additive industry, which is a whole nother long story. But anyway.
Hey, thanks for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe, whichever platform you're on, and leave some comments. We actually read every one of them, and it's actually great for the algo. All right, back to the show. So they were fans and became involved in the business, and then they launched the Justice Brothers business after that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So, my dad, because of their background, they were very well known amongst the Indy crowd. And when we went we moved to Florida in order for a business opportunity and spent 10 years in Jacksonville, Florida, where I was born. And at that time, they became the first paid sponsors in NASCAR.
Right.
And the entree for that was through their Indy background. Because stock car racing, really, frankly, in the early days was, a bunch of beat up old cars. And then, the second year they went to strictly stock. But it was not sophisticated. And Indy was very sophisticated, top of the food chain, the Indy 500. And I know a lot of people don't get it today, maybe, but that's the way it was. Right. And NASCAR really modeled themselves a lot off open wheel and Indy, and we could spend an hour on that historically. But the thing was, because they came out of the Curtis Craft shop, and because they were involved with the Indy cars, et cetera, they were treated like royalty down in the South. And they helped a lot of the early stock car guys refine the cars, et cetera. Because the IndyCar crowd basically came out of the war working on airplanes, and like my dad, aircraft mechanic, which is really one of the highest forms of mechanic you can be.
Yes.
An aircraft.
State-of-the-art engineering.
Absolutely.
Right?
Well, because an aircraft, people don't understand. Look at, I drove by maybe 3 cars coming down here today that might be questionable that they were on the road. You don't have questionable aircraft in the air. Okay. It's got to be perfect. Right. Okay. It's either right or it's wrong. If it's right, okay, you can fly it. If it's wrong, you're not taking that thing in the air. Okay. Yeah. Even a home built thing.
Right. So NASCAR at that time was still very developmental. And so these guys, come in with a little bit of more knowledge and engineering background. And then you guys started to sponsor some of these teams?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, to give you an example, in 1950, now we went down to Jacksonville prior to NASCAR's formation. They were there in 46. And NASCAR wasn't formed till the later part of 48. And so they went down, I think it was later part of 48 or 47, I forget. But anyway, they were sponsoring stock cars prior to NASCAR. So they went down there and just start. My dad and my uncles, and people tell me too, have a great ability to just meet people, get acquainted, and figure out, how to help or whatever.
Right.
So.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's that's NASCAR history, though, right? I mean, it's
Oh yeah, no. And NASCAR. Look at when my dad passed away back in 2008, he was one of 16 or 19 people that they flashed on the screen that had passed at the Waldorf Astoria, where they were having their year-end banquet. Another guy that they honored was Paul Newman. I mean, it's like the Academy Awards when there's a lot of people that pass away, but not all of them get acknowledged.
Yeah.
Right or wrong.
Right.
Okay. And my dad was acknowledged at the NASCAR banquet, which was really, to be quite honest, it shocked me. They had contacted me for a picture of him, and I had no idea why they needed this photo. And my wife and I are actually getting ready to go out to dinner with some friends. That we had a dinner appointment prior to knowing that the banquet was going to be that night. And as I'm leaving, I hit record on the banquet. And as I'm leaving, it was later, they were doing the memorial. And I go, honey, my dad is on the screen. I took my breath away.
Right.
I mean, it was very, very touching. I mean, I very much appreciated the acknowledgement that NASCAR, gave him and my uncles for that matter. But,
and you
so in
didn't even know
1950,
that. Yeah.
I started to tell you, in 1950, just to show you, here it is 4 years after they get down to Florida, the first 500-mile NASCAR race is held at the first super speedway in NASCAR history. That was Darlington.
Right.
And the race was the Southern 500. It also was the first NASCAR race on pavement. So first race on pavement, first 500-mile race, first super speedway, somewhat modeled after Indianapolis, although not. And they had 70-some plus cars in the field, believe it or not, on this smaller course than Indianapolis. And the car that won, Johnny Mance, the only sponsor on the car was the company my dad and uncles were. And that was later in the year. They had already won the Indy 500 with Johnny Parsons. So my dad was, at one point I went back, I go, so how old was my dad when they did this? I mean, my God, you win the Indy 500, you win the Southern 500 in 1 year. It's like, pack the tin up, let's call it a day, I'm retiring, Yeah. And he was 29.
Wow.
So you go, wow, you don't want to flame out too early here, buddy. But so anyway, we sort of accomplished the same thing a few years ago. I think it was 2021 when we won the Indy 500 with Helio Castroneves, and we won the 24 Hours of Daytona with Wayne Taylor Racing. And so even though it wasn't the Daytona 500, it was held at Daytona.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, so we came close. So that was a big year for me.
Yeah, that's a big deal. So from Florida, did the business move back to California and you moved? Okay.
The entire time, not knocking, I have a lot of friends that live in Florida, like I have a lot of attorney friends, okay? So, I'm not knocking Florida, but my dad missed California. Florida and California, even people that live in Florida will admit, when people say Florida's just like California, they'll go, no, it is not. We don't have the humidity that Florida has.
Yeah.
They have a different type of extreme heat. For an example, you go to Disney World, you'll see umbrellas in the lines. You don't find that at Disneyland here in Anaheim, California. Okay. Yeah. So my dad really missed California. He loved California. And so the entire time we were down there, he was trying to figure out a way to get back to California. And they did that by buying the distributor's operation here in California. And he did that without the knowledge of my two uncles. Okay. And when he told them, hey, I just bought California, we're moving back, there was a little bit of discussion over that.
They were not happy moving back?
Not strictly because you never talked to us. I mean, I thought we were equal partners in this deal, and you just go ahead and commit to buy. They paid $50,000. This was in 1956, which is a lot of money back then. Yeah. And they didn't have that money. And so it was mad. We don't have the money. How are we going to pay this? My dad says, you know what? We'll figure it out. Because we're coming back to California. And because their mom still lived, they had moved their mom from Kansas to California. She still lived in California. Some of the the sisters lived in California still. So my dad really wanted to get the family all back together. They're very, very close. My dad and uncles could get into the worst arguments you've ever seen. I mean, I used to stand there and other people would witness this and they'd think that they were going to kill each other, or, at least come to blows. Mm-hmm. And then 5 minutes later, they go, hey, let's go to lunch. Yeah. And people would say to me, this is crazy. These guys were ready to kill each other 5 minutes ago, and now they're hugging each other. I go, that's the way they are. Yeah. I said, they're always family. Mm-hmm. They always put it behind them. And I said, but I said, yeah, when they have a disagreement, you do not want to try and break them up because you'll end up being the target of their ill will. Yeah. Now they'll get unified against you. And I said, so just let them do it.
So family first always. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Very much.
Well, at that time, California was like car culture central, right?
Well,
50s.
And that's what I have a picture of my dad and uncle built their first race car in their preteens. And it was a midget, and they built it from plans. And I have a picture of that little car covered with snow. Mm-hmm. That picture is symbolic of why he wanted to come to California.
Right.
He saw the palm trees. You come to our headquarters, we got palm trees everywhere. Mm-hmm. California's adopted the palm tree like no other. Yeah. There wasn't a single palm tree originally.
Yeah.
Canary Island palm, et cetera, et cetera. And my dad loved palm trees. His house had palm trees everywhere. Our business has palm trees everywhere. And he loved the whole Hollywood, the movie premieres. He lived in Santa Monica when he first came out. I mean, he so bought into the Hollywood image that had been projected. Mm-hmm. And remember, this is at a time when California was doing everything in their power to get people to move here. Yeah. I mean, Balboa Island, in order to get you to buy a lot on Balboa Island, they would give you a set of encyclopedias. Okay. I mean, imagine that. All right. Because it was a sandbar.
Right. No one wanted to live there.
No. Yeah. No, nobody wanted to live by the beach. Yeah. I mean, parts of, say, like Laguna Beach or other beaches, it was a second home. Yeah. You couldn't make a living by living at the beach. Yeah. I mean, I remember when they built the Fleur building over here in Irvine, mm-hmm. and that was like a big deal. Yeah. I mean, that was when Orange County was starting to become a business center. Yeah. And now here, where we are today, you're surrounded by all sorts of business stuff. Yeah. But that was not Orange County, back in that era, the early days of California. I mean, you could buy the whole coastline for nothing.
Yeah. If only. Well, I heard like Manhattan Beach and Hermosa, Redondo, those were all second homes for other people living inland. That's why the lots are so small. Yeah. Because, no one lived there, on a permanent basis. Nope. It was just like a place to go, like during the summer or on the weekends.
You find a lot of those communities were at least 85% second homes and 15% primary homes. Right. Today, you'll find it's exactly the opposite. Mm-hmm. It's 85% primary homes, 15% second homes. It is completely flipped. I mean, take like the South Bay, where you're talking about Manhattan Beach and all that. That's very close to LAX. Yeah. So, and Manhattan Beach is like really pricey.
Now it is.
Yeah. You have a lot of former rock stars, mm-hmm. et cetera, there. And, just up Sepulveda, you can go to LAX and hop on a plane, be anywhere.
Yeah.
So
no, it's a great,
anywhere in the
area.
world.
So where did you grow up though?
I grew up in Arcadia, California.
Okay.
And that's the home of the Santa Anita horse racing track. Mm-hmm. And we had first moved to an area in West Covina, and then from there they moved to Arcadia very shortly. And Arcadia was known as the community of homes. And so it was a community. Mm-hmm. Okay. And it was a great town, still is, and great school system. And, it was in the San Gabriel Valley.
Right.
So.
And then, so you were taken by your dad to all the races, mm-hmm. and you were shooting photos, and you started selling your photos to drivers. And when did you start, shooting for magazines? And
at 14.
At 14, okay.
Yeah, believe it or not, I'd have my dad. I mean, it was different. I know it seems crazy, but it was different. And I, some guy back then, like there was I got a job also at Irwindale Drag Strip. I wanted to be the photographer for the track, but unfortunately or fortunately, my mentor and best friend was the photographer for the track. So obviously I'm not going to get that job. But when the job of writer came up, because they would supply a weekly column to National Dragster, which was the publication for the National Hot Rod Association, which still goes on today, and Drag News, which was published by a lady by the name of Doris Herbert, who was sisters of Chet Herbert, who was a speed equipment guy and also dry lakes and all that. So I got the job as writer. Now, I understand I'm in high school. Most guys are not really into English. I mean, come on. I mean, maybe I'm stereotyping here, but I mean, the last thing I really thought that would be fun was like writing a
literature
report.
yeah,
right. I mean, that tends to be more of a female thing. Okay. But they're great guy writers. Okay. But I mean, it wasn't my thing, but I have this opportunity to be the writer. Okay. $35 a week and a free hamburger at the track. And and I didn't like hamburgers. Okay? I was more of a hot dog guy at that time. But they had hot dogs, okay, so they got the better end of that deal. But anyway, Irwindale was financed and owned by a guy by the name of Harry Snyder. Harry Snyder was one of the founders of In-N-Out. Okay,
right. That's
Lindsay
right.
Snyder is now
the CEO right now.
That's right. So those hamburgers at the track were In-N-Out burgers, and nobody even knew it. Okay, and In-N-Out was a thing, but not like it is today. Okay, and so anyway, I guess one of the reasons why I didn't like them is I have a dairy allergy, and the Thousand Island has dairy in it. Oh, so
the sauce.
I never put it together. Okay, but I just go, man, these things make me feel like garbage. I get them today. I don't have the dressing on it. I'm fine. I love In-N-Out. Okay. I'm what they'd call a heavy user. So anyway, I was writing those columns every week, and I'd go to the race on Saturday night, and then Sunday I'd sit there and agonize over. So, I'd look at what other people wrote. And I was unaware of the Elements of Style, that tiny little book that tells you to parse everything down. Don't use too many adjectives. Don't use too many verbs. Don't. But I was writing differently there. I mean, when you have a couple stock cars on the drag strip, and it's not some big name deals. Yeah, boy. I mean, how do we polish this apple and make it? John Thompson's Chevy Impala really laid down a good run on that. Smoking the tires off the line. I mean, you just
how many times can you do that?
Yeah,
right?
Exactly right. I mean, okay. It's like books on Ferrari. Every year we have another one.
Right.
It's the same story, okay? I mean, there's no changing the history of Ferrari, but they keep selling them, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, so that was great training, though, because it taught me to work on a deadline. And it stretched me, okay? And so while I'm doing that, I'm also shooting pictures. And there will be weekends that my friend Mert Miller, the track photographer, couldn't make it. So therefore, I was the photographer, and I was happy to do that, unpaid for the extra work. I mean, there's a lot of value in being a apprentice, and even an unpaid apprentice.
Right.
I mean, it's a great way to learn things. If you are so lucky to have somebody, one or more people that really are on the top of their game, take you under their wing and show you the shortcuts, you are a blessed individual.
Yeah.
Okay. Because, but you need to bang your nose and scuff your knuckles a little bit before you get that. because if you haven't had some hard knocks, then you don't know the questions to ask. If you've banged your head against the wall and then you get access to somebody who knows what they're doing, boy, you know the questions asked. Well, how do you do this? I mean, this is a problem I had. Now, you can ask the right questions and you'll get back really nuggets. Otherwise, you say to somebody, hey, well, teach me how to do this.
It's just given to you, so you don't appreciate it.
And where do we start? Where do we start? So you need to go out and fail. Failure's a good thing. Failure gets you closer to success. The more times you fail, the more times you're going to get closer to success. And you can't ever just give up. So, and I've failed 1,000,000 times. I mean, back then, your failure rate of shooting pictures for the best photographers was much higher than today. Much higher. And you didn't know that till the event was over.
You can't check on the finder.
No.
Right.
I mean, it's really
redo it.
My dad would say, hey, Ed, we got this funny car that we're sponsoring. They're in Ohio. We talk about it and say, let's do a poster on that car. Okay. I want you to fly back there. So I go back. I'm under 24 years of age, or I think it was. And I mean, we talk about like being straight out of the farm. I get to the place to rent a car and they go, we don't rent cars to people your age. You're way too young. And so this was for a drag race, actually, in Ohio. So now I got to get out to this drag strip, National Trail Dragway, and I can't get a rental car. There was no Uber. This is out where a cab wouldn't go, and it would be a fortune if I have a cab drive me out. It was way out. So I go to the desk and I asked the lady, I said, hey, I need to get out to this place. You have any suggestions? Well, yeah, there's a bus that goes down that highway. Just tell them to stop by the side of the road. So it was like out of Hitchcock's North by Northwest, okay, the scene. So I load all my camera gear and everything in there, and I tell the bus driver, hey, drop me off. So we go on down the deal, and he pulls it out, lips up the side, pulls out all my stuff. Here I am by the side of the road, the highway. There's the drag strip across the way. I got 2 arms and 2 hands, and I got 4 bags, okay? And I mean, I can't double up. So I take 2 bags, run them across the road, go back over, keep them in eyesight, run those forward. And I leapfrog these bags all the way into the drag strip to the team. So anyway, but I'd go back like on that funny car and shoot pictures, and a couple runs down the strip and the guys go, you good? I go, yeah, I'm good. They go, you sure you got that? I go, yeah, I'm good. Come back home. Yeah, got it. You know what I mean? Now, for a photographer today, I'd love for the photographers of today to really experience that. Okay. I mean, come on, let's grow some courage here. Okay. I mean, it was a different world. So anyway, I was freelancing at 14. And so when I got my driver's license, funny story, I got, September is when my birthday is. I got 3 moving violations, speeding tickets by, I think it was November.
Okay. And then what happened after that?
So I go over to my friend, Gray Baskerville, who is now a legend with in the Hot Rod magazine history. And he had just started to work there. And I say, Gray, I need a letter from you to the judge saying that if they take my license away, it will hamper my ability to earn a living. Okay, 16 years of age. Okay, it's not like I got a wife and kids and a mortgage. Okay, okay, but I mean, I'm grasping for straws here. So anyway, he goes, "What, a judge? Who? He's not going to care." I go, "Just write the letter, please," and I could show you the letter. And so he writes it, "To whom it may concern," and it goes on, yada, yada, yada. It's come to our attention that Ed Justice Jr. has got his third moving violation. And if his driving ability improves to the same extent that his photographic ability has, we doubt that his name will ever grace the signature portion of a citation again. It worked.
Oh.
Okay, the judge told, I understood the judge. I think he just thought, okay,
I thought it was
all right,
funny.
son, all right, credit, high five for, you know what? Okay.
Good try.
And he said, but he told me, he says, you get another ticket, buddy.
You're out.
You're going to lose your license for, I don't know how many months or year or whatever. We're pulling your license. So he said, you better slow her down.
Yeah.
And I did because, you know, that was my meal ticket, the ability to get around. You know, I mean, it's hard for me to believe that kids don't want to get their license right away. For me, it was incredible freedom.
Yeah.
I mean, now I could go to the racetracks on my own. And I was shooting features for Carcraft magazine, a feature on a car, you know, beauty shots and all that type of stuff. So.
And then at the same time, were you working for your dad?
Yes.
Or, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I worked for my dad and the company during summers. There was no summer vacation for me.
Right. And then you've shot for many publications too, right?
Correct.
And you also did radio and you announced a bunch.
Right.
How did that like evolve?
Again, a guy that just can't say no. So, you know, obviously I was blessed with a quote radio voice. Okay. And
you're killing me here, by the way. You know,
yeah. Anyway, so, you know, I'd heard that for years and I'd done some little bits and pieces of radio and all that type of stuff. And, you know, it isn't like I went to radio voice school. Okay.
You're born with it or not.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. I mean, let's get real. Okay. And so then learning how to use it, et cetera. Okay. There's that. But you either have the voice or you don't. And I mean, or you start smoking and drinking whiskey and you start,
But you start talking like this.
So I didn't do any of that. Okay. So anyway, I was offered to do a spot on a radio show with a dear friend of mine, Alan Taylor, to be the motorsports guy. And so we started doing that. I started doing that with him. Then the opportunity came along for me to actually be the host of Road and Track Magazine's radio show. And I did that. And I won the MPG Best of the Year, Dean Bachelor Best of the Year in the audio visual category, they called it that time, which was up against documentaries, TV specials, TV shows, and radio and all that. And I won with a radio interview against, I won't name them, but well-known people. You would know their TV shows. I beat them.
Right.
Nobody was more shocked than me. Trust me. I mean, I was blown away that night. So anyway, I just did that. So, you know, when I first started doing it, my dad said, Ed, where are you going to find the time to do this? I go, that's my problem. Okay. Don't worry about it. Okay. I mean, so I was working for 30 years, 6 days a week. And happy to do it. You know what I mean? And interviewed everybody. I mean, everybody in the racing industry, in the automotive industry. I mean, I interviewed Jim Farley back when he was with Scion.
Yeah.
And had a lot of fun and became very good friend to Jim's. And he really is what people see. I mean, he's a true car guy. You know, followed him through then the president of Lexus, then marketing and advertising when Mullally brought him into Ford. And then, of course, now here we are, the head of Ford Motor Company. And which is great because, you know, for an example, their whole racing resurgence, and which goes back to Total Performance of the 60s and all that. So anyway, I did the radio. So that then led me where people said, well, hey, would you MC this event? And so I emceed the Carmel Concours on the Avenue from day one. That's the show that was the Tuesday before Pebble Beach. it kicked off the week. I did that for 15 years until the founder, Doug Friedman, passed away. Mm-hmm. And my wife and I had dinner with Doug and his wife, Jeannie, in Newport, Rhode Island for the 4 individual nights prior to his passing. Mm-hmm. It was a real shock, let me tell you. So anyway, and then I did Concorso Italiano. I've done the San Marino Concours. I do the La Jolla Concours. First of all, if I get a call, hey, we like you. I did one Rancho Mirage out at La Quinta. I did that probably for 10 years. It's not like if they say, hey, we'd like to have you announce our Concours, I go, yeah, done deal. I really don't. I turn down more than I do. Mm-hmm. And because I number one, I don't need to do it. Mm-hmm. Okay. I do it because I love it. And so I am very lucky I get to pick and choose. I do the Art Center Car Classic. I've done that for a number of years, probably 10 plus years. And I do, the Art Center is very close to my heart. I taught a couple classes there, part of their continuing education program. And Stuart Reed, who was the former director of he was the former chair of the Transportation Design Department, very dear friend of mine. Mm-hmm. Merrick, the new one, is a very good friend. I love the Art Center. I just think it's a phenomenal place. I would have died to go there as a young guy, as a photographer, mm-hmm. but instead I went off and got a business degree. Mm-hmm. But so I do those as much as I want. And then I have the occasional pickup, like Dan Gurney and his family asked me if I would lead the memorial for a very dear friend of his who I got to know very well through Dan, mm-hmm. Colonel Rush Schley, who was America's #1 bomber test pilot. He was very close friend with Chuck Yeager, who was the fighter pilot, mm-hmm. test pilot. And so I did that on a Saturday. And that night, I got a call from the family and said, are you coming to Jerry Grant's memorial on Sunday, the next day? Yeah, I am. Would you conduct that memorial? And I said, yeah, I'd be happy to. Jerry was a very dear friend. Mm-hmm. And so I did 2 memorials in one weekend. I call that my Memorial Day weekend. Yeah. But anyway, so, those types of things I'm happy to help out with. Mm-hmm. Both of those guys that the memorials were for were good friends, great people. Yep. It's not like, hey, Ed, we got a memorial coming. Like, for an example, I go down to A.J. Foyt's dad's funeral. Mm-hmm. My dad and I, we fly down there. And Tony, his dad, was a good friend of ours. A.J., of course, a good friend. Mm-hmm. The night before, we're at A.J.'s house. My dad and I, A.J. and his wife, Lucy, and his good friend, Bobby Waltrip, mm-hmm. not related to the racing Waltrips, okay. and his wife, Claire. The 6 of us. And AJ asked me, I did some magic for fun and just trying to get, minds off of losing his dad. And AJ says to me, yay, would you shoot pictures of my dad's funeral tomorrow? And I go, AJ, I didn't bring a camera. Because, really, who brings a camera to a funeral? Right. Okay. It's just like, it's bad enough these people with these cell phones today. It's like, hey, put the cell phone down, okay? Just try to remember it this time. And I'm all for recording history, obviously. Mm-hmm. And I go, I didn't bring a camera. AJ goes, I got cameras. And I go, okay. So we go down. He doesn't have this home anymore. Uh-huh. In fact, it was on the market recently. Uh-huh. We go down this home. It was out in the Memorial Drive area. Beautiful section of Houston. Houston has no zoning laws.
Yeah, I went to high school in Houston. So
okay,
I know Memorial Drive, yes.
Okay. Yeah. Jerry J. Moore's, the French Chateau House? No. Okay, well, anyway, it's right down the street from AJ. So mm-hmm. anyway, Jerry J. Moore owned all the shopping centers with the yellow poles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If you knew it, you'd see them all over Houston. So anyway, so we go down this hallway and we dive into this room and then boom, all of a sudden we're in a secret room. Like, whoa, this is pretty cool.
The wall
yeah,
somewhere?
Exactly.
Yeah.
and it's got shelves, floor to ceiling. And what's in there? Sterling silver trophies that he's won. I mean, unbelievable. And it looks like the back room at a camera store.
Wow.
Cameras, lots of cameras in the boxes.
Oh, wow. Okay. He hasn't
Never
even
opened.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Lenses. I mean, it's like, buddy, they just, my friend Pete Byro let AJ said to him one year at Indy, hey, let me see that camera. So Pete hands him his Nikon. AJ holds it up. Some wire service guy gets a picture. That thing goes just viral, as we'd call it today, across all the newspapers. Nikon next week. Here's your own cameras. Here's your lenses. I mean, he's like a Nikon shooter now. Okay, I mean, boom, just like that.
Nikon ambassador.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, now I'm like, I'm looking at all these cameras and I'm like, okay, really what's more important is what lens do you have for what camera? Mm-hmm. So I find the lens that I wanted, which was a zoom, and then I find a camera that would work with it. Now, this was right in the transition between manual and automatic cameras. So this camera is somewhat automatic.
Right.
That's like, hey, Ed, we'll send you to some country. They don't speak a word of English. You don't speak a word of their language. Have fun on your trip. It's like this camera. What am I going to do with this thing? Okay, I've got myself into this hole. Now, can't say no. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I told my dad as we were going back to the room that night, I said, I got to look up a camera store. So I get back the yellow pages, right?
Right.
And none of this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you don't have film either, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, I got to buy film.
Right.
And I go, we got to find a camera store that sells this camera. I think it was a Minolta.
Okay.
And I said, and I got to go out there and I got to have these guys tutor me on this camera so I don't do the wrong settings.
Right.
Okay.
Right. There's no YouTube at that time.
So first thing in the morning, we're out at this camera store. So I shot pictures of AJ's funeral. So, look at if a friend calls and they need help or they got something, again, like doing the memorials, the announcing or whatever, I do it. I do the Legends of Motorsport every year up in Napa, with Bruce Meyer, actually put me in touch with this one. And that's just such a fun event. It's held at the Napa Valley Reserve. It's a private event. It's a private winery, membership winery. And John Lamb came a few years ago prior to his passing, famous photographer.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And he told Bruce, he said, Bruce, why are you not taping these interviews? He goes, this is epic what happened here tonight. And, they're not taped, and I don't have a problem with that. Not everything needs to be taped, okay? I think if they had cameras and lights and all that, it'd take a little bit of the magic away from the evening. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And while it's great for history and all that, but so a couple of years ago it was Richard Petty. This year it was Scott Pruitt. Great job with Scott. And a year before it was Richard Petty. And, we sponsored Richard back when he started. We sponsored his dad, Lee. There's a picture in our book of Lee Petty under sponsorship by my dad and uncles. And you never know where these interviews are going to go. And I have a good grasp of history. I've lived it, and I happen to be blessed with a good memory. And I said to Richard, when we're looking at the picture, I put up a picture of him with these trophy girls on each side kissing them.
This is during the interview?
Yeah, interview.
Yeah,
in front of a nice crowd, all dressed really nice. The women are in gowns. The guys are in coat and tie. I mean, it's like, you don't see much of this anymore, And I said to Richard, 200 victories. That's a lot of trophy girls. and he had no idea I was going to spring this on him. Yeah. And Richard, I love Richard. He's just such a good human being. He's a great race driver, unbelievable talent, but he's a good man. He's a good human being. And he goes, well, my wife told me, it's okay you get one picture with those girls, but if I ever see a second picture with any of those girls, we're going to have trouble. Of course, everybody loved it because it was so cute. Yeah. And I mean, I hit him with this. And he comes back with this. It's obviously it had been a topic of conversation in the family.
Yeah.
So anyway, his one of his daughters was in the audience, and she later told a mutual friend, they said that's one of the 2 best interviews that's ever been done with Richard. So made me feel very good.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. What's the most fascinating one that you've had interview?
Oh gosh. Richard was fascinating. I don't know that, well, I'll tell you one that was interesting. This is when I was doing road and track radio, and I hit Paul Tracy with, did you guys have traction control on your Indy cars? This is when he was driving for Penske. Mm-hmm. And he, without missing a beat, said, yes, we did. Okay. Now, understand, this was illegal.
Yeah.
Okay. And, that's the one thing about Paul Tracy. He's unvarnished. Mm-hmm. Man, I mean, he just puts it out there. And that's when I looked down at, because this was a tape to rebroadcast. Mm-hmm. It was during the middle of the week, and I make sure I'm recording that. Like I'm,
lights are on.
I mean, my jaw dropped. If he could see me, is like, you did. Well, how did you guys justify doing that? I mean, it was illegal. Well, we knew everybody else was doing it, and if we didn't do it, we couldn't compete.
Yeah.
So it was like, they're cheating, we got to cheat. So yeah, that was one. I mean, there's been so many. I can remember some bad experiences, and I won't talk about those right here, but both of those drivers later didn't necessarily do particularly well in their careers. I mean, I told one sponsor one time after I got done with this interview, mm-hmm. the PR person. Now, there's a whole nother story working with PR people, the good and the bad, and it particularly being a business owner and being on both sides of this fence.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But I told one sponsor, I said, hey, I want to just tell you something. If you're starting a list of people who will never interview this driver again, start one, put my name as a first person. And the response was, you won't be first, Ed. We've already got a list.
We already have that list.
I go, so then why are you sponsoring this individual? He's a terrible representative for your company.
Yeah.
I said he was absolutely rude. What I've tried to tell drivers, because when you do radio, if you're doing a live interview and then you go off and go to commercial and then you come back on, the broadcaster does have the ability to have the last word. Mm-hmm. And you can sync that person if you want to.
Yep.
You can go, boy, that was interesting. Mm-hmm. Wow, what was wrong with Joe today? You know what I mean? So
woke up on the bad side of the bed.
Yeah, right. I mean, so the thing is, just be a good person.
Yeah.
Do the job. Don't look at it as a pain. It's part of the job. You signed up for it. Even more so in today's world. I think that's one thing that Racer really knows here. Mm-hmm. At Racer is the marketing, the whole business side of racing. Mm-hmm. I mean, Paul and the group was way ahead of the game when it came to that for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And, today, I mean, look at a NASCAR car, a driver and a team. They might have 10 different sponsors on that car over a course of a season. Mm-hmm. Well, it wasn't that long ago you could have one sponsor for the whole season. Mm-hmm. So you got a lot of people that you got to make happy.
Yeah.
And you got to shake a lot of hands. You got to kiss a lot of babies. You're part politician being a race car driver today.
Yeah.
And
a brand ambassador at the same time, right?
Total.
As a business owner, you have attended races, right, as a sponsor, and you've also attended races as part of the media. I think that's what you were saying on being on the both sides.
Right.
Which card do you play when you're walking into an event?
Well, it really depends. It's like going into some foreign countries. There's sometimes you want to check on the entry form that you're a business person, and there's sometimes you want to check that you're a tourist.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And you want to just stay under the radar. So it really depends. Sometimes I'm both, obviously. Mm-hmm. The thing is, though, being a member of the media, the thing that I've really worked towards is not breaching the trust of people.
Yeah.
Not going for that cheap gotcha moment, not going for that scoop. Once you lose trust with somebody, it's very hard to get it back. It's very hard to get it.
Yeah.
It's very easy to lose it. And then, burn me once, okay.
They won't speak to you again. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just like when I get called to get interviewed about a book on somebody or a deal or whatever. I mean, I really pick my words, I mean, when I'm with somebody, a racer or whatever, and they're talking about things, I want to have a relationship where they know what they tell me in confidence will be held in confidence. And I'm not going to breach that in order to make Ed look better or to get ahead. If you got to do that, I think that's really a sad way to live. Look, a lot of people don't realize when a person dies, you can write a book and say they had 50 girlfriends and, they did all sorts of criminal activities and all, and none of it can be true and nobody can sue you.
Yeah.
Because a dead person can't sue for defamation. And the general public doesn't quite understand this. Now, when somebody's alive, you can be sued. And I just, to me, trust, confidence, it's like I've had that with so many people, Foyt, Parnelli, Dan Gurney, yada, 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 I mean, on and on and on and on and on. And it's very special when you become a very close friend of somebody, a true friend, because really most of us don't have a lot of true friends. You know what I mean? So I just, my greatest asset in my life, I've always said, are the friends I have. More than anything else.
Yeah.
More than anything else. My friendship with people means more to me than anything else. And I mean, true friendship, not fair weather friends.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I mean, you have to identify who your true friends are and who your fair weather friends are. And that's life.
At Racer here, we're launching a couple new initiatives, and doing a podcast is one of them. And you've done a couple of podcasts. You've been on what do you think of this long form conversational format compared to like the quick hitting, social media content? How do you weigh the difference?
Okay, so it's a funny thing. When I went on Instagram, I didn't really do much. Then a friend of mine said, Ed, Instagram is made for a guy like you. Because the original model of Instagram was you only could post pictures you took. And I think the rule's still there, but it's violated daily. Where people rip off people's pictures, mine included. Yeah. And they post it on their deal. They get clicks.
Yeah, it's the Wild West. Yeah,
it is the Wild West. Yes. So, but the original deal was it had to be content you generated. So I was doing that and with short captions and all that. And then all of a sudden I thought, and trust me, my one daughter, Courtney, has got a lot of friends in the internet world, deep, et cetera. And they're talking about, they were building stuff out for YouTube and how many videos were being uploaded a day. And it's the numbers are staggering. Yeah. And in the beginning, YouTube was considered to be like a cheap platform. Yeah. If you wouldn't embed a YouTube video in your corporate website.
Yeah, it was user-generated content, which was mostly crappy.
You would consider that to be a little bit less than now YouTube. Okay,
no shame and
no, seriously, it's like products made in Japan after the end of World War II, and then products made after Sony started saying we're going to make quality. The complete image change there.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, for an example, if your Nikon's made in Japan, it's considered to be the best quality Nikon versus the one made in another country.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So YouTube went through this transition. So my friend says to me about Instagram. So I started saying, well, I want to write a little bit more. Long form, like you talk about. I mean, look at 2.5 minutes was considered perfect video for YouTube. Okay. In that range. Because of attention deficit disorder and whatever, people just clicking on whatever. And then all of a sudden people started discovering long form. There was this audience for it.
Yeah.
It's not for everybody, but there is an audience. And so I started writing these long descriptions. If you look at my Instagram account, where some of them, I literally hit the limit on Instagram, which is more than 140 characters, right?
Yeah.
And I'd have to say continued below and put it into the comments.
Yeah.
Okay. I found a following for that.
Yeah.
I found that people go, no, I love this stuff. They actually liked it more than just a quick picture. And hey, that's such and such 1968 Riverside Grand Prix. And so my answer to you is, yeah, long form is very much alive and growing. And look at YouTube. This is such an amazing thing coupled with the internet. And like everything, it's good and it's bad.
Yeah.
There's a good side, there's a bad side. AI, there's a good side, there's a bad side. Okay. The reality is the genie's out of the bottle.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have to deal with it. I mean, look at the internet is like going to a city council meeting, but nobody's there to say, okay, your time's up. You can sit down now. People can just go on. And imagine if a city council meeting or any sort of governmental meeting was run that way. It's chaos. So there is that side of the internet. Okay. I'm not that. I don't do any political talk. And funny enough, nobody said, hey, we're really missing Ed's political opinion. I mean, the other 200 million people that are giving their opinion, what's Ed think?
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
No one cares.
To me, I want to be the positive guy on the internet or one of them and educate people. That's what I did on my radio show. Educate and entertain. Okay. And I want to be that guy.
Yeah.
And I find, it's funny because, as you know, on the backside of these things, we see the numbers.
Yes.
Because when you're generating it, you can see the numbers. You can see what your age group is. My age group skews young. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It skews young.
Yeah.
Not guys like me. Okay. I have a young demographic, and which tells me, all right, that's positive because they want to learn about the history. They're into this type of stuff. Obviously, there's a certain amount of respect there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the long form, I watch a lot of long form stuff. I mean, if I get on a plane and there's movies, I go straight to the documentaries. That's sort of what this, in effect, is sort of doing.
Yeah.
I love Larry King. Larry King, I'm trying to remember the one, Howard Bragman, famous PR guy in Hollywood. A friend of mine was partners with Howard. Howard, when Tiger had that problem with his wife, the big blow up and all this bad time for Tiger.
Yeah.
I had Howard Bragman on the radio show to talk about damage control. And one of the things he said, which always stuck with me, as a damage control PR person, there were two people that he'd take a client to right away. One of them was Larry King.
Okay.
And he said, the reason why is I know Larry will give them the right time to tell their side of the story, and I know he'll be fair.
I see.
Larry was never gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah.
All he was a conduit to bring the story out and let you, the viewer, decide what you thought. And very successful.
Yeah.
Very successful. I mean, I got to meet Larry and be with him. And I mean, anybody that does interviews I think he'd be one that you'd shoot for.
Yeah.
Obviously Barbara Walters would be another one, but, I mean, it's, there's so much that you can learn from this type of format because, life is not just bing, 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 short form. So, yeah, I think the long form, there's clearly a place for it. Again, it's not for everybody. Mm-hmm. And, that's the way it goes, But if you are willing to dedicate the time, I go on and I listen to stuff on cameras and stuff on cars, and because I'm interested in what other people say about a car to see how it compares with my thoughts.
What do you listen to these days or watch?
Well, gosh, you know what? I am like a internet YouTube grazer. Mm-hmm. I mean, I do. I'm fascinated with the Beatles. Mm-hmm. Okay, because they were a band of my generation,
right?
And I am fascinated at the creative process.
Yeah.
Because I know how sometimes where you end up, like with many of the pictures in this book,
yeah,
where you end up is not where you started.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's that process that to me is very, very intriguing and never gets old. Mm-hmm. And so when I see a documentary that shows the Beatles working on a song, or it started with this and it started this way, and then you hear the different takes, and then it ended up this way, that process is, number one, educational. Mm-hmm. And it's reinforced to me. They're not the only ones.
Yeah.
It's reinforced to me what I've always told people when they say, I got a blank sheet of paper. That the blank sheet of paper is considered to be one of the most scary things for a writer. Mm-hmm. Well, the reality is it's the same for everybody, photographer, whatever. You got to start somewhere.
Artist, whoever.
Yeah. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
You got to start sketching something. Mm-hmm. Because you got to get that first thought down.
Yeah.
Because you can't then refine that thought to the end result unless you have that first thought. Mm-hmm. And so many people that are not in this process think, and this is true in business, this is true with products, this is true in everything. They think that somehow you just lightning bolt, boom, there it is, perfect. Perfection is not just like that. It takes a process. So that's one of the things I watch is that type of stuff. My good friend Ted Forbes, he does a podcast, social media feed, The Art of Photography. He wrote recently a book that is just unbelievable. I mean, it is a compendium on photography, but he does great. He's somebody that I know, that I've found knows. He has a great knowledge. He has a background in music, mm-hmm. which is an interesting way to come to photography, but very beneficial, because one of the hardest courses I ever took in college was music appreciation. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. That had the highest dropout rate of any course I took in college.
Yeah. I love watching those YouTube videos too. There's this guy, I forgot his name, something Beto. He interviews like all these guitarists, like legendary guys.
Yeah.
Scott Beto, is that?
No.
That his name?
I know him. He's gray hair.
Yeah. But
it's amazing.
I love his videos.
No, he's highly acclaimed. I watch him.
Yeah.
Okay. I love to watch things I know nothing about.
Yeah.
Look, I played the organ when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. My parents had an organ in the house. I played the organ. You got to understand the organ was not cool at that time. Okay.
Well, unless you listen to like Deep Purple, you're like,
but that was later. Okay. The Doors, Ray Manzarek.
Yeah.
Okay. That he was the first.
Yeah. Okay.
This was prior to that.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
This is when, it's like you're at the church bingo game.
Yeah. All right.
Or the Dodger game. It
wasn't cool.
I mean, it wasn't
Doors
cool.
Or Deep Purple.
Plus, keyboards weren't invented. So, hey, you would take my organ. Well, no, my parents, we had pipes.
Okay, yeah.
Not a big, this wasn't like, some church in Rome,
Right.
They had pipes though above the organ. Yeah. And so, I played recitals. I learned how to read music and all that. And I did enjoy it. So I said, hey, I'd like to really play the guitar. Well, I've always had a fascination with the guitar, but you know what? It's so painful to play the guitar. I just didn't.
What, your fingers? Like,
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And
well,
I've talked to guitar players that have done
like,
this their career, and I said, do your fingers ever not hurt? They go, no.
Well, it's because you build up that
yeah,
callus.
but even with that, they tell me if you don't play all the time, you stay away for a while.
It gets soft right away.
Yeah. So anyway, I love like that. Rick, I think it's Rick Beato.
Rick Beato. That's it. Yeah.
I love watching him and the construction. There's another guy that I love watching when they show how they play.
Yeah.
Because see, I relate to that like magic.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain because I'm a card magician. Mm-hmm. And there are certain what we call flourishes that look a certain way, but mechanically when you're doing them, they're completely different, meaning they look a lot more razzmatazz than actually the mechanics.
Okay.
And so a lot of times when these guitar riffs, you go, God, that just sounds like it's, but then you see it. Like I watched Jeff Beck, I photographed Jeff Beck, and I was right there. Mm-hmm. And I watch him, and I came away from that night, I go, I could do that. Seriously, as stupid as that sounds, I go, because you know what? Anybody that's good at something, they make it look so darn easy.
Yeah.
It's like, I could do that. And then I go, yeah, but no, I couldn't. I mean, because, it's like, but you know what? Practice. That's why I always have a camera with me. Practice. That's why I always have a sketchbook with me for ideas for the business. Mm-hmm. Anymore now, I don't need it as much because I can,
dictate
do this. And the voice recognition is just phenomenal. Mm-hmm. It's really the bigger problem I see with people today is taking advantage of all these tools to their extent that they're available.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think most people the phone is a notebook.
Well, yeah, it's not
notebook.
Just a note. Yeah, it's a notebook.
Boom, you see an idea? Boom.
Recorder.
You see an idea? Boom. You see an idea here? Yeah. I've got the scanning type, I scan that sheet, boom, occasionally I use this to make phone calls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not even a phone anymore.
Yeah,
it's a
no.
supercomputer
The other
in your pocket.
time, it's my office,
So what was the creative process for this one? So this is your latest book.
Yep.
Yes.
Right.
And this is all shot with a Leica. Is that
with Leicas? Okay. Yeah. A lot of the shots were shot with an M. Mm-hmm. This one and or one of my other M's. Some were shot with what they call the SL, which is their mirrorless. Looks like an SLR, but it's a mirrorless. And they have a camera called a monochrome, an M monochrome. Mm-hmm. It only shoots black and white.
Yeah.
Now people would think, why would you buy a camera that only shoots black and white? Well, there's a reason why, because in order to get color, you take the sensor, a sensor in a digital camera is black and white. Mm-hmm. It's made into a color sensor by splitting it into the color array. Mm-hmm. So when you remove that array from in front of the sensor has a greater tonal range. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people think it's great marketing. I did too in the beginning until I got one, and I go, no, this is the real deal. If you want the best quality black and white digital pictures, and I'm a big, like this was shot with the monochrome, and the tonal range, the headlights, the everything, that's a palm in the hood, I call that. Yep. And it seems to be a very popular picture with everybody. And I'm not a studio photographer. Mm-hmm. These are, as said, fleeting moments. These are, I try to see, and it said that in the description, I try to see things that people are walking by. That it's just like, there's a picture in here. I was at a meeting, and a guy goes, you always have a camera with you? Yeah, I said, yeah, I do. And he said, but why? I said, because there's pictures everywhere. I went out from that meeting and I shot a picture, and it's in this book.
Okay.
And I love it. I think it's a great picture. And so, it's training yourself to see things that people don't see.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, the shapes, the tonal range, and I shoot color too, you know what I mean? But I like this. This was a pop-up. I call this "There's no stopping the Colonel," and this is a pop art. This is the Andy Warhol strong influence. As Ted Forbes says, in the music industry, it's called a cover when you record somebody else's song.
Yeah.
Okay, like if you recorded "She Loves You," that's the picture that I shot when the guy said, "Well, what do you care?"
This is the one where you walked out.
Yeah,
okay, yeah.
So anyway, thousands of people walk by this every day. Nobody, I guarantee, ever said, "Hey,"
yeah.
So when you re-record, so there is such a thing in photography as a cover, because let's face it, in life, there's nothing is new. At this point in history, I hate to tell you this, but
nothing's original.
Yeah, nothing you or I do is going to be 100% original.
Yeah.
Okay, those fields have been plowed long before we came around. All right. And so, this whole thing about I am going to be the first or that. I mean, a lot of people claim to be the first in this, first in that. It really many times shows their lack of knowledge of history. So, and sooner or later they'll find out. But anyway, so that's my deal is always on this genre is to find those visual things that communicate, whether through color, whatever. I mean, I guarantee you that the people that walk by this don't even realize that these two buildings have different color glass.
Yeah.
Because it's really not apparent when you're standing there.
Right.
It's just not apparent. And this is almost like the primary colors, but not. That's a picture. I mean, what's the range of age in these photos? Over 50 years.
Evel Knievel?
Yeah,
right.
that was shot with a Nikon. That's a lone picture that wasn't shot with a Leica. That was shot with a Nikon F, and that was shot in 1971. I was, again, that 71, I was 15 when I shot that. He's on a Harley.
Yeah.
Yep. And I shot him also earlier when he was on an American Eagle, brand that nobody would know today. And, but anyway, this is an example. You got to focus on an area where he isn't. I mean, he's in the air.
Yeah.
And then you got to time it. And you got to set the settings. And this is either you nail the shot or you didn't.
How old were you when you shot?
15.
15.
Yeah.
So you were just in the crowd shooting this?
No.
Were you part of the media?
Yeah,
already
I was in the front. And you know what? Okay, so I have stood for hours in locations to make sure I have the right position.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
willing to go there early.
Right.
If I'm out there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going for something, then, at what cost are you willing to get it? And, I mean, I was willing to stand there.
How many hours?
I was there for at least an hour before for that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and then the crowd shows up, and then of course you get the people who show up late and they want the best location. It's like, yeah, you're a little late to the party here.
That's when the elbows come
Oh, yeah.
out, right?
God, Victory Lane is unbelievable anymore. Yeah. The mosh pit, Some of those battles I don't even fight anymore because I find the pictures better. Everybody, it's like, yeah, that's a really unique picture that only 50 other people got the same exact photo,
Yeah.
So it's like everybody's fighting for this location. I'll go somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I don't want, sometimes you need the stereo, like there are friends of mine, they shoot for Racer, that they have to get that, what I would call a bread and butter picture, Victory Lane picture.
Yeah. This is the right deal.
That's it.
Yep.
And you know what? And the sponsors expect that, and that's fine.
Yeah.
You know, that's a bread and butter picture.
Mm-hmm. But these books are a little bit different, though. You know, they're a different perspective.
Totally.
Yeah, right?
Totally. It's a completely different perspective.
Yeah.
Like this was in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
I'm walking down the street.
Yeah, it's the main street on Nashville.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know this.
Yeah. And
I think I have a picture, but it doesn't look like this.
Yeah. But what makes this photo is this guy.
Mm-hmm.
This guy with the sunglasses with that killer reflection.
Yeah.
It's late afternoon sun. And I mean, again, it just sort of happened.
Yeah.
But, you know, luck is where opportunity and preparation intersect,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, there's luck to this, but the preparation and the opportunity. And when that guy came into the frame, I go, oh, I think this is a shot.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that picture. I look at that and I go, yeah, okay, there's a little bit of serendipity, but it really fits with the legend's corner. It's like, there's the legend right there, you know? He's got the shades on and he's like this. You know, it reminds me of like Max Headroom. Remember Max Headroom?
Right.
Okay.
Or just, you know, this, it's the juxtaposition
Yes.
of this random guy just walking in front of this legend's
There's
sign,
a lot of juxtaposition in my photos.
Right.
There's a lot of that.
Mm-hmm. And he has no clue. He has no clue that he's even in this picture, right?
Some guy.
Some guy.
Some guy. Yeah. Just some guy.
Some guy, right?
Yeah, I think his wife was with him.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's just
in front of the legend's corner.
And obviously, I mean, look at the blacks, the whites.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Ansel Adams, big hero of mine, tremendous influence on my photography, that, you know, what's meant to go black goes black, and what's meant to be white goes white, and then you have the tonal range between.
Yeah.
And I intentionally shoot some of my digital pictures at a higher ISO, what I would call film speed, than necessary to induce digital grain. Because digital grain now is very organic compared to, it's not pixelated anymore. Because the sensors are so big that the noise you get on the sensor now is much more organic than it was in the beginning of digital. Now, understand, 50 years ago, I did everything in my power to get away from grain. Right. I developed the film differently, develop it at a certain temperature, you know, because you didn't want to be too hot because heat causes expansion. And so I did everything grain in that era, in my opinion, and most photographers of that era, in opinion, if it was for magazine work, was considered to be lower class. It was like, man, you didn't really do a good job. Yeah. Newspaper, different, because newsprint was very forgiving.
Yes.
But today, now, grain is very much like this one.
Yeah.
Grain is very much a part of the image.
Yeah.
It
gives a character.
Right. Yes. Yeah. You put this on a wall and it's better than if this was a dead, sharp, sterile image. Yeah. I mean, you've got the green, you've got the motion, you've got a repeating pattern. And this again, I'm at a metro station and I go, wow, this is really, I see this in my mind, but obviously, you know, the execution is another thing. And this line, the lines, you know, all the lines and everything. And so I slow the shutter speed down and, you know, there you go. Yeah. And so, you know, it's photography and it's art.
Yeah. Yeah. Were you panning when you shot this?
Yeah, panning. So that's just another day for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Panning race cars. I mean, it's been doing that 50 plus years.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Shooting fast out. I mean, this is slow compared to average day at the track. Yeah. I mean, you know, you got to think cars going into turn one in Indianapolis, where I shoot a lot of pictures. They're 240 going into the turn.
Yeah.
240 miles an hour. I mean, that's fast.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how many feet a second that is, but I can tell you this way, it's fast. Yeah. And you know, when you use a telephoto lens, it telegraphs the speed, right?
Yeah.
If you're a wide angle, you go like this, you hardly have to move. With a telephoto, the farther you get it out there, the more you're moving.
Yeah.
Okay. And so it's all relative. So
You were mentioning the cat's out of the bag with AI.
yeah.
Where do you stand there?
Well, it depends on the use. I mean, look, it's troubling when it comes to photojournalism. Okay. I mean, some of these deep fakes are really, really scary.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because, there's the saying that a lie can travel around the world while the truth is still getting out of bed. And there's great concern about whether you could start a conflict or cause panic. I mean, if you know anything about history with Orson Welles and the War of the Worlds, I mean, people committed suicide because they thought this broadcast of aliens coming in was real.
Yeah.
We're so far beyond that today.
Yeah.
So I don't have a problem with AI in the proper context. I think in editorial, where it's pretty pictures editorial, and I know that a lot of photographers would disagree with me on that. And that's fine. See, a lot of photographers have a problem with Photoshop, primarily because it can be misused. I don't have a problem with Photoshop when it's used in the right way. Because Photoshop, when used the right way, is no different than retouching that's happened since the beginning of photography.
Yeah.
Ansel Adams, was it Moonrise over Cortez or whatever it is? That sky is darker intentionally than it was shot.
Right.
And it's very well known. You can see the way it was shot and the way it ended up. So I don't have a problem with that. But if you're trying to report on a factual thing, AI has no place in that world.
Yeah.
None whatsoever. And Leica is one of the first camera companies to, not in this particular model, but their latest one, the M11, that has a certification that when the image comes out of the camera, you can tell if it's been modified.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and they worked with Adobe for that.
Is that in the metadata? So
yes.
Yeah.
And Adobe recognizes this.
Yeah.
Adobe, they recognize there's first of all, there's a business for that.
Yeah. They have some kind of a Adobe, I forgot the name of it. It's like a committee or a council or something like that recognizes authentic work, right?
Right.
But it's interesting because now a lot of Adobe products has AI built into it.
Oh, the AI in Photoshop is
You can
scary.
You can just type
I don't, in. I know how it does it, but I don't know how it does it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. You can just type
I've
in
asked
like
it to
a
do
rubber
certain
duck
things just to see how it does.
Yeah.
It's like, how did it do that? And we're just, we're just at the very beginnings of this. I mean, the growth of AI now is climbing at a rate like no other.
Yeah.
It's been like this for a long time because artificial intelligence, in the broad sense of the words, has been around for a long time. Cruise control is artificial intelligence at a certain degree, et cetera, radar cruise control. I mean, there's been a lot of things that have been artificial intelligence before the term came about. And it's just been this thing. And now all of a sudden, though, like with Chat GPT, et cetera, it's a whole new ball game.
Yeah. Yeah. When, the internet, came out and they thought, a lot of people thought, it's the end of the world. And then, with now AI coming out and people thinking it's the end of the world again, but it's already out there now. So now it's time to, I think you're going to use it or you're not going to use it and get left behind, or you're going to, and use it right.
I liken this to online banking. Same thing said about that. I know people, you probably do too. People watching probably know people. Maybe they're one of these that say, I'm not going to do online banking because I don't want my information on the internet. Okay, sad truth, Your information's on the internet, whether you do online banking or not.
Yeah,
okay.
It's already out there, dude.
Just to put it in real words here, you go on, you create an account on your bank, you'll have immediate access to your information. Not because some guy in some room said, oh, hey, Ed just signed up for an account. Let's upload his stuff. No, it's there. So the fact that you access it doesn't make it any more or less susceptible. It's there already.
Yeah.
Okay. So the train has left the station, whether we want to admit it or not. And it's like online buying. I was an early guy to try this, try that, to see how it works. And, I remember watching Jeff Bezos on one of the morning news programs saying, when they were books, that I don't know that Amazon will ever make money. That was a quote from him. You can find that on video.
Right.
He said, I don't know that Amazon will ever make money, because they were losing money like crazy, sort of like Tesla the first 10 years.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but I go and buy this. I want to see how this works. I mean, again, I'm not afraid of testing something out. And then because, you saw this with Porsche. Water-cooled cars came along. Air-cooled cars are the only cars people would say, I want to buy.
Yeah.
I'd meet somebody like that. I said, have you ever driven the water-cooled car? No. Well, then how can you say that it's a bad car?
Yeah.
Why don't you try driving it one time? You might shock yourself, okay? And the reason why they're water-cooled is because they're lower emissions. You need water. You need cooling. The way you cool an air-cooled car is with fuel and oil.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm not that guy. I mean, I want to try the new technology. I want to give it a fair shot, and then I'll give you my opinion on it. Yeah. But I don't want to go by somebody saying, "Oh no, you don't want to do that, Ed." Yeah. I mean, my gosh, that's just not the person that I am.
Yeah. Where do you think motorsport media is heading though, with now with all this new technology and ways to access?
Well, look at media in general is in a continued state of change. Me as a sponsor, I have definitely different viewpoints on this than, like, for an example, one sanctioning body said to us as sponsors, during the weekend of racing, you cannot post anything on social media.
Okay.
Imagine this.
Wait, someone actually told you, a sanctioning body actually told you this?
Yeah, it was in writing.
Okay.
You can't, your PR people cannot post anything. Because why? Because of television rights. Okay. They didn't want social media scooping the television contract.
Okay. When was this?
So,
this was recent?
Not that long ago.
Okay.
Not that long ago. And so I say to them, as a sponsor, I'm giving thousands of dollars to support your series, sponsoring competitors. Yeah. Without competitors, you don't have a series, right? So you're sort of dependent upon these people I'm sponsoring, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'd be better off if I didn't sponsor anybody and I bought a $50 general admission ticket, and I come in the grandstands, and I take my phone and I shoot, and then I walk around the pits and I shoot, and I have no restrictions as a general admission ticket.
Yeah.
Me, I'm spending thousands of dollars, and you're restricting me.
Yeah.
Now you tell me, how does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They
couldn't.
Yeah.
But they eventually changed it.
Okay.
Okay. And some of these restrictions still go on to today.
Right.
And I'll say to these sanctioning bodies, I mean, is the problem that you have too much exposure? Apparently it is. Okay?
Yeah.
Apparently you have too much exposure because you're trying to limit exposure.
Yeah.
Here I am sitting in the office of one of the great automotive racing magazines. That's around.
Yes.
Okay. Stating the obvious.
We're still around.
Okay.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I love magazines. I love print. And there are not many vessels like this to get your message out in. Now it's a shotgun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's social media. And you're telling me you're getting too much exposure. Okay? But again, you'll go after some influencer that bought 200,000 followers, and you think that that's going to change your life.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you they've tried that, some of the manufacturers, and they found out wasn't as good as we thought. Because it is the Wild West, to go back to your deal with quote influencers. There are some people who are really influencers, but it's authenticity.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's when it comes to my social media, I guard that more than anything.
Yeah.
More than anything is that I stay Ed Justice. I stay authentic. I stay who I am, not Ed Justice, open for business, for sale.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think, is there too much exposure? P.T. Barnum says, just as long as they spell my name right. Okay. I don't care what they say about me. Just spell my name right.
Right.
And you know what? There is a certain amount of truth to that.
Yeah.
A lot of people get in the news constantly by being controversial. Yeah. They keep their name out there. And we could go down a list, and that's another podcast. But anyway, so sometimes the management, they get disconnected. Disconnected. They'll come up with some cute little slogan, and they think that somehow that's going to cause people to rush to go to the races.
Yeah.
No. You know what? I'll tell you one last thing, and I know, look, we've gone a long time.
No, it's okay. We have plenty of time.
One last thing. Okay. I'm of the belief that a lot of money that is spent in racing today is a total waste. Total waste. Does nothing for the entertainment value. Nothing.
Why is that?
Okay. Well, like for an example, Richard Petty, winning a stock car driver ever, ran their team out of a bunch of sheds. Racing was great.
Yeah.
It was entertaining. Now we have these garage mahals. Racing is not as good. Okay.
Okay.
So how much money you spend does not correlate to the entertainment value. To me, every dollar you spend should make it a better show for the fan.
Right.
If you're spending money and it doesn't make it a better show, F1 was there a few years back. They spent money like nobody. And the racing was the worst.
Yeah.
Tune in for the start, tune in for the finish. Middle of the race, you know what? Cut the lawn.
Yeah.
Okay, do whatever.
Right.
Daytona was that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched the last 20 laps of Daytona. And I sponsored Jimmy Johnson at the very beginning of his career.
Yeah.
It was great he finished third at Daytona. But is that really a third place finish? He was running it further back than that most of the race, okay?
Yeah, right.
And then you have a massive crash. That's called the Daytona lottery.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You lucky. I mean, it's total. If this picture was lucky, Jimmy's finish at third was lucky. Okay?
Yeah.
Just like the winner was lucky.
Right.
But everybody had a chance at that same luck. Okay? I'm not knocking it. Hey, you know what? They dropped the checkered flag. That's where you were. You take the money. You take the first. You take the second. You take the third. Whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not knocking that. All I'm saying is the last 20 laps, we're going to have a big one. And there you go. So how do you get the people to watch the race the rest of the time? Why have a 500-mile race? Right? Why? I mean, whatever. And it's a cross racing. I'm not picking on NASCAR now. Yep. Okay. I'm not picking on that. I mean, it's a cross racing. I mean, you've got to make, I'm of the opinion you should get rid of automatic shifters in race cars. Let's put the driver back in there.
Yeah.
See, back in the day when you had a Dan Gurney putting pressure on somebody and that could cause the guy in front to miss a shift and then get a pass.
Right.
Today, it's just boom, bam, bam, bam. It's it's not. I mean, look at golf has done a good job not allowing long range balls, not allowing certain types of clubs. Baseball, no aluminum bats.
Yeah.
I mean, they could antiquate all these stadiums if they went to aluminum bats, or a lot of them anyway.
Yeah.
And so I think, racing. I know they feel that they have this cross to bear, always have the highest technology. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's the backing of the manufacturers, though, right? Because they want to use it to develop new technology and make their cars better.
Yep.
So it's just an inevitable step that the cars get faster and bigger now, right?
Yep.
So from a brand standpoint, what has been the most effective use of motorsports to sell your products?
Well, being there, consistently being there. Having the teams use our products. Look, this will be our 80th year participating in the Indy 500. I think this is the 109th Indy 500. So we've been involved in 80 of the 109, and you can't stop now. But I love the Indy 500. I mean, we've won it twice. I won it in 2021, and then my dad and uncles won it in 1950. We've led the race. We've sat on the front row, yada, yada, yada. I think IMSA is really a great series. I love IMSA. I think it really embodies the win on Sunday, sell on Monday, the old saying. I mean, these are cars other than the prototypes, but the prototypes have their place. Look at the 917 Porsche did a lot to sell 911s, even though it didn't look like anything like a 911.
Right.
Okay, and the 512 Ferrari helped sell Ferraris.
Yes.
So much of IMSA is your Mustang, is your Camaro, of course, Camaro going, sadly, is your BMW, is your, and you see the corrals. For the different makes and all that. And I think, look at the auto manufacturers have recognized this because they have the midways now, which are taking the place of the traditional auto shows. And, COVID changed a lot. And I think it gave the manufacturers a chance to sort of take a pause and look at things, and also a chance to say, yeah, we're not going to do this anymore. Because the auto shows got to be very expensive. The venues were charging probably too much. I don't know. I wasn't writing those checks, but I know how these things go. They figure you're a guaranteed deal, so we just keep raising it up. And so now you see them at the racetracks, and you do have the hardcore fan that you're talking to, and it's a great deal. Like the Rolex 24 is a great race. I mean, all the IMSA races, I go to almost all of them. And you find a lot of families, you find a lot of camping, you find enthusiasts. I mean, it's really great. I mean, I think that's a really, really successful. Now, there's a lot of offshoots to that, the Trans Am series that's over here, and SRO, and, the Ferrari Challenge, and the Carrera Cup. And so road racing is great. And, look at them, not to forget my roots in drag racing, because we've been in drag racing. My dad and uncles were Don Garlett's first paid sponsor. So we go way back in drag racing. Drag racing has its appeal too. And there's a lot of the win on Sunday, sell on Monday in drag racing.
Right.
Okay. I think Pro Stocks maybe stretched it a little bit out. I was there when Pro Stock started in 70, 71, 70, I think it was 70. And it was more pure. And again, the shifting was more, Dick Landy was known as a shifter and all that. And that was great. I mean, you got to have, look, I'm not a big fan of on a lot of these race cars where you can't see the driver's name. They're the reason why most people are coming. Take like the IndyCar series. You're not coming to see the car per se. All 24 or 33, if it's Indy, are the same.
Well, they're...
So, I mean, you maybe have a paint job you like, or a wrap in today's world, but they, the drivers don't even have their names up here anymore. They put them down on their belt. And I really think we've made some turns that don't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it just doesn't. The driver is the star.
Yeah. I think Fox is trying to maybe change that a little bit
Yeah,
this
it'll
year.
be
Like
interesting.
looking at their like commercials, they're really focusing on the drivers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, what I'm saying is constructive criticism.
Yeah.
You know, I am not knocking any serious. I love racing.
Yeah.
I'm of the opinion when they build a new track and people go, oh, if only it was this. Okay, we have a track. Okay,
At least we have
All
a
right.
track. Yeah.
trust me.
Yeah. Rest in
We
peace.
just lost one in
Irwindale.
California,
Yeah, exactly.
Irwindale.
Yeah, that was very sad.
They come and go in California.
Yes.
Okay, trust me.
Mhm.
What we have is better than a lot of alternatives.
Yeah.
So racing is great, but I just see that there's things that have changed. It's like I'm of the opinion that drivers' helmets designs have gotten way too complicated. They're not memorable.
Yeah.
They're not memorable.
Mhm.
You take Jackie Stewart, Graham Hill, Dan Gurney, black helmet,
Yeah.
AJ Foyt, just the AJ initials.
Mhm.
That's branding.
Yeah.
Make it simple.
Yeah.
You get too, and I mean, a lot of friends of mine are great painters, and so, but, and you get a design, you go with it. Look at Mario's helmet, silver with the,
Mhm.
okay, that was Viceroy.
Yeah.
Most people don't realize that.
Yeah.
When he was driving the John Player Special,
Yeah.
he was wearing a helmet that was modeled after the Viceroy logo, okay,
I
when he
see.
drove for Vels Parnelli Jones.
Yeah.
But you know what? Once he got that helmet, it became so recognized to him that he was smart. He kept it.
Yeah.
And that became, you could just see it and you knew it right away.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you don't,
Yeah, like Senna's helmet, right? It was.
That's it.
Yeah. It was like.
that's it.
Yeah.
You know, you don't change. A lot of drivers today, they change their helmet every year. You know, it's like they get bored with the design, they have them paint a new one. You don't change the look of Coca-Cola every year.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, it's
you don't go to
branding.
a green can this year
Exactly.
and the next year it's blue.
Yeah.
And then, that red can, we're getting sort of tired of that red can. Let's go to a silver can now. Or,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's hard enough to get the message through all the clutter.
Yeah.
Let alone now become your own worst enemy.
Uh-huh.
And so, I just think they need to promote the drivers more, and they are. I see that with Fox, and I love it. I mean, look at it. I commend them. What Roger's done at Indianapolis has been phenomenal. I mean, look, he gets his share of, I guess hate, for lack of a better word, that I think is totally unfounded.
Mm-hmm.
I think they've done an unbelievable job, and more power to them.
Yeah.
Anything I can do to help them,
Mm-hmm.
if they were ever to say, hey, could you do this or do that?
Mm-hmm.
I'd be happy to. Again, it comes back to like the internet. I want to be the positive force here.
Yeah.
I want to help build this, because I think racing is very precious to me.
Mm-hmm.
All forms of racing. I've never met a form of racing I didn't like.
Yeah. From
tractor pulls to swamp buggies to, I think drifting is great.
Yeah.
I mean, I love drifting.
Mm-hmm.
And monster trucks.
Yeah.
Okay, I love monster trucks. Why? Because it brings in young people.
Mm-hmm.
And at a certain point, they will probably transition to another form of racing.
Yeah.
But as a young male at one time, young males go through this love dinosaurs,
Trucks.
trucks, heavy equipment. You know what I mean,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Isn't it true?
Yeah. Of
Like I
course.
said to guys the other day, you give a young guy a magnifying glass and you got trouble there. He'll be burning everything out there with the sun, leaves, you know what I mean? So it's sort of like just a rite of passage. And I get it about monster trucks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's action. Look, when I was young, again, going back to the very beginning, I was exposed to all forms of racing, but wheel standers and rocket cars are what I really loved, because I had no comprehension of speed.
Yeah.
When you're young, speed is like 200 miles an hour. What does that mean?
Yeah.
It means nothing. 100 miles an hour means nothing.
Yeah.
But, and flames. Yeah, now that I can relate to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So whatever it takes to get young people into the love of racing or the automotive world, motorsports, I'm 100% behind. I'm 100% behind. Because once we get them in, then we can work on trying to get them over to stock car racing.
Yeah.
Or IndyCar racing. And I encourage people to take a bite of the apple, all of it.
Yeah.
I gave Kenny Roberts an award out at Fontana, California Speedway, the Justice Brothers Shav Glick Award. He told me that day that he had never been to a stock car race. King Kenny, one of the greatest motorcycle riders ever.
Yeah.
I said, "You've never been to a stock car race?" "No, this is my first one." I said, "Well, I'm glad I'm the guy that brought you here because you need to go to at least one.
Yeah.
You need to go to at least one of everything.
Yeah.
Keep an open mind.
Yeah.
Go to it. If you say, hey, not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
Okay. Go to a drag race. Hey, not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
Or you might go, oh my God.
Yeah.
This is amazing. Same thing with stock car racing.
Right.
Find it, try it. So, and that's really, I think, where a lot of the sanctioning bodies need to just get people to sample the product.
Yeah.
Just to get them to sample the product. Like you go to these warehouse clubs and they'll give you all sorts of free food to get you hooked.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Free samples.
Yeah. Get them to sample the product.
Yeah.
Show them that it's a family thing. Show them you can have fun.
Yeah.
Make it welcoming. You know what I mean? Expand the crowd. So.
Well, Ed Justice Jr., thanks so much. We actually asked the same question to all of our guests, and it has a lot to do with the creative process that we were just talking about today. What is your creative drive?
Wow. Gosh, that's a big question.
Maybe we should ask our guests before we.
Yeah, well, that's okay. I'll give it a bit. My creative drive is to constantly be learning. My dad had a saying, and this is really what I live by, and this would be my creative drive. When you're green, you grow. When you get ripe, you rot. So I always want to stay green.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I always want to continue to grow. I think when you get in I've been there, done that. Oh yeah, well, I've done that before. Yeah, I did that. It's same thing. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, you want to go to this new casino? I've been to 100 casinos. Geez, I mean, what could this, stay like a kid.
Yeah.
That's my creative drive.
Yeah.
Stay young. Don't get hardening of the attitudes. Stay young. Be open. When you're young, as a magician, I will tell you, here's the thing. If you were young enough, and I held this phone here, and then I took my hand away and it just stayed there, at a certain age and under, you would not be impressed by that because you have no knowledge of physics.
Yeah. Yeah.
You haven't been learned that yet. At a certain age, if I went to the stove and it's red and I put my hand on it, you would not be impressed by that because you hadn't touched the red and burnt yourself.
Yeah.
So as we go through life, we pick up a lot of that, and that can be baggage.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily good. You want to try to not pick up a lot of the bad baggage.
Yeah.
And that is my creative drive, to stay young, try to see things young, try to stay fresh, try to say, oh, hey, good. Hey, you want to go do, yeah, exactly. That would be it.
Yeah.
When you're green, you grow. When you get ripe, you rot.
No, that's a great one. Well, Ed, thanks so much. Where could people follow you? And you have, what's after this stuff?
Well, I have a website, which is edjusticejr.com. That's edjusticejr.com. The book is for sale at that website, and you can find out, you can go to a photo gallery and all that. Then, of course, Justice Brothers is at justicebrothers.com. That's JUSTICEBROTHERS spelled out, justicebrothers.com. The Legacy of Justice is for sale either at the Justice Brothers website or at my website. And of course, on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, but Instagram's my main thing. There's at Ed Justice Jr.
Yeah.
And then at Leica Justice, which is the artsy stuff. At Ed Justice Jr. is all automotive history, that type, talking about experiences, and it's a great little community. I have fun with.
Yeah,
with
great account. Yeah. All right, thank you very much. It's been a great honor to have you, and I appreciated this time with you. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Well, my honor to be here, and I appreciate the invitation.
Thank you.
Thank you, really.
Thanks for watching and listening to The Creative Drive, where we offer listeners a candid look into the minds of automotive creators and their journeys. The Creative Drive is available on all podcast platforms, and we have more awesome guests lined up for you guys, so please subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. If you're interested in partnering with us, or if you have any feedback, please email us at podcast@racer.com or DM us in our Instagram. The Creative Drive is produced by Molly Binks from Racer Studio, directed by TJ Keon, creative director George Tamayo, and edited by Andrew Snyder. We've got New Nick, OG Nick, and Morgan on the socials. I'm your host, Taro Koki. Thanks for watching again, and we'll see you next time.